Yo, parish orphans and retrogrades. We live in the follow-up time to the Pope Francis pontificate, and this means that perennially we are living in the follow-up time of one or more comments. I've waited a few days from the, 48 hours from the Pope Francis Retrograde remark. There are too many Homo sapiens in seminary, and we need to avoid this sort of Retrograde. Just Google what that means. So, what is this? Has the Pope even using a slur, Retrograde as an F word, regarding too many Homo sapiens in the seminary? What is he? Has he become a right-winger? The way a lot of, 21-year-old Catholics who know nothing about the first half of this pontificate because they were 10 or something and not yet Catholic are asserting, or does it mean because he walked it back, he did in fact walk it back, that he is a fearful normie who gets cowed by the leftist media? No, it means neither of those things. It means neither of those things. So Pope Francis originally said there should be no more Homo sapiens admitted into the seminary. We've already had enough Retrograde, F word for Homo sapiens. You know the translation in English. And that sounds kind of based. But then afterwards, this is yesterday, one day later, the Vatican released a statement translated to English, reading as such: Pope Francis is aware of articles that recently came out about a conversation behind closed doors, which with the bishops of the CEI, that's Italian bishops. As he had the opportunity to state on several occasions, quote, in the church there's room for everyone, no one is useless, no one is superfluous. There's room for everyone just as we are, everyone. The Pope never intended to express himself in phobic terms, H-phobic terms, and he extends his apologies to those who were offended by the use of a term, the other term, reported by others, Retrograde. So, is he now retreating like a coward somewhere in the left center or right center, the way apologies usually are indicative of fear from people in the left or right center, from the fear of the radical left? No. I'll explain exactly why it's not that Pope Francis made this remark because he's based. He didn't make the retraction because he's afraid. Both remarks are part of a calculated plan. Parish orphans and retrogrades. Pope Francis isn't afraid of the right. He's not afraid of the left. He's a man of the left, but he runs point. He's not afraid of either side. This is part of the plan. He does it to perfection. It's all programmatic peronism. That is to say, an ideology that he learned, a praxeology/ideology that he learned as a young man in Buenos Aires from a political dictator there, Juan Perón, who he admired. Use doublespeak, act like you're minding some boundary as you use doublespeak. Doublespeak is a fundamental contradiction of the principle of non-contradiction, which is the central human intellectual first principle. It's in some sense the axiom which holds Western civilization together when Western civilization used to make sense. So act like you're afraid of some rules, and he's not afraid of any rules. He doesn't mind any. I'll explain what that program is on today's episode of Rules for Retrogrades. Before so, I want you to know that you need to get out of your blue state. You need to get to a red state, Americans. Go to realestateforlife.org, and you'll be helped by a pro-life, pro-Catholic clerk who will help you get out of your blue state and get to a red state. If you're already in a red state, I'm not the kind of man that shills for any company, even a good company like Real Estate for Life, and tells you buy a new house just because. But if you do need to buy a new house from within a red state, use Real Estate for Life also. But I really am targeting, pinpointing every single Catholic, Christian, conservative, Catholic or Christian or conservative who lives in a blue state. Get to a red state. Go to realestateforlife.org. Get, like I did, out of the bluest of the blue to the reddest of the red. I went from the most liberal state to the most conservative state, and my life and my family's life improved really drastically. Further to this, I would encourage young men in the audience to go find the CMask channel. It's a new channel that I help to run, along with Mike Pentilli, Will Noland, and Nick Stumphauser. We do Friday shows, and I boost those Friday shows. I play them here because it's a new channel. Go to CMask, C-M-A-S-C, or Christian Masculinism on YouTube and subscribe there. It's basically my Friday show. So if you come to Rules for Retrogrades and it's only a 2-episode week, it meant that I really, really leaned into the CMask episode. Usually I'll put it up on Saturday or something, and I want people to use that as the third Rules for Retrogrades episode today. But we need to build subscribership there. And it's anytime you build a new YouTube channel, you're starting from scratch. It's a big chore. It's a big chore. And I am so busy with these 2 big projects of the summer. You're going to get a big update soon. That, man, other chores like building the CMask channel just feel difficult. So for right now, if you would, just go subscribe to CMask and click the notification bell, like the videos you've seen. That will build the subscriber base there, because that's what we need to do. Thank you. Also, if you want to support the show, become a patron on Locals or Subscribestar. I have a special Saturday feature where I talk only to my patrons on Locals or Subscribestar, and I say, behind the scenes, behind my house, here's what I think of my 3 shows today. Here's some secrets. Here's some secret extra mature thoughts, ex post, something like that. Here's what went on. Here's what this guest said to me behind the scenes a little bit. Stuff like that. That's a new perk. Another perk is we are going through every single word of the LOTR trilogy, Tolkien's Lord of the Rings. We're in the middle of 2 Towers right now, but if you sign up today, you'll have every single class in 1 class per chapter on all of Fellowship in the first chapters of 2 Towers. We read every Wednesday night. We go through commentaries of the reading every Wednesday night on the next chapter in the trilogy. That's for Locals and Subscribestar patrons. Please support me by becoming a Locals and Subscribestar patron. Thank you very much, Locals and Subscribestar patrons. We love you. So, the smart money in the Pope Francis pontificate is 100% always on peronism. The idea that Juan Perón used in Buenos Aires involving a praxeology of doublespeak. It's not new. It's not like he created it, because he didn't create it. But he used it in a way in South America in the middle 20th century, late 20th century, that was a little bit more nuanced than the typical Snowball and Napoleon Animal Farm Marxist way. He would really lean into saying something right-wing for a month. Then he'd really lean into saying something left-wing for a month. Remember, in 2013, when Cardinal McCarrick gave a speech at Villanova, he said there's one guy that could do what the Sanktgalen Mafia wanted him to do. I'm paraphrasing some. And this guy was this Buenos Aires Bergoglio, subtext, who was a great admirer of Juan Perón. And the way he would have to do it would be by saying things like frotagine. Too much of that in the seminaries. Don't let any of the Homo sapiens into seminaries anymore. And then reversing it the next day and saying the Pope never intended to offend anyone in homophobic terms. And before he did either of these things, remember, he published Fiducia supplicans. So you make a sandwich, bread, meat, bread, out of doing pro-lavender mafia agenda items. Implement Helmy, we say. Well, Pope Francis is always showing us where his allegiances lie. It's the lavender mafia. So he made it, he changed a 2-year-old, that is to say a new CDF document, which had reaffirmed 2,000 years of teaching that you cannot give SS unions, or SS couples rather, blessings. You can't give the unions the blessings, but you can give the couples the blessings. Well, he had fired Cardinal Ladaria, prefect of the CDF, for circulating a document in March of 2021 saying, of course you can't give a blessing to this mortally sinful couple. They can each come in individually, same as a mafia can always come in individually, but a mafia can't come in on his way to a hit and say, I'm about to do a hit, can you bless it? Or a mafioso can't come in with his girlfriend and say, hey, would you bless me and my girl here? He's cheating on his wife. No, even without confession, anyone individually, a homo sapien, a mafia guy, a murderer, can go and get a blessing from a priest. But remember, 2021, the CDF had upheld its teachings through Cardinal Ladaria that, of course, you can't get a double blessing for a guy and his extramarital affair girlfriend or a couple of Skittles men, because that's basically the step before saying you can have extramarital affairs or SS unions. Francis says, no, you're wrong. You're out. Ladaria, you're in. Cardinal Tuccio. First thing Cardinal Tuccio does the next day after he becomes CDF prefect is he says, we're reversing this. Ladaria got fired for being faithful, and they start working on Fiducia supplicans. They publish that, and it's all about blessings for SS couples. So that's the one. So Francis already showed us where he is on this. By the way, in March of 2020, a year before that, he said, I support the worldwide global lawfare allowing SS unions. He's just saying what he supports. He's not saying as a Catholic. That has nothing to do with blessings. But so he reiterated that he wants SS unions to be legal in every country in the world. 2020, 2021. The faithful Catholic document comes out later 2021. He fires Ladaria for that act, gets in Cardinal Tuccio at late 2022, and then the first thing they do is Fiducia supplicans, violating Catholic teaching on this particular matter of homo sapiens, homophobia. So that's the first act. Then in the middle, later this week, he says, oh, there's too much of this Frotagine in the seminaries, which contradicts everything. We don't, it's anti-LMNOPTQ plus. It sounds based and right wing. And then he walks it back. But note the language of the walk back. Francis is never afraid. The Pope never intended to offend or express himself in homophobic terms, and he extends his apologies to those who were offended by the use of the term, Frotagine, reported by others. So this is not him being afraid. Him saying it was not him being right-wing. He confuses you with doublespeak, and then he goes ahead and does what he wants to do. He is a man of the left. I'm not sure about Juan Perón. Juan Perón, they say, was left, right, middle, whatever he had to do to get more power. But Francis is committed to the Sankt Gallen agenda. So he makes a sandwich, a bread, an A, top piece of the bread, A prime, opposite is the meat. A say bottom piece of the bread sandwich, and then he moves ahead, and everyone's just, wow, he made a mess. What is that expression? Hagia Leo? Make a mess. That's what he said he wanted to do with the church. Oh, do we have that one? Where's that sound clip? That's what he said he wants to do, and that's what he has done. And when he says that, it doesn't just mean make a mess for a mess's sake. He means make a mess so that he can proceed forward and trash doctrine.
Quiero lío en las diócesis. Quiero que se salga afuera.
So that's him saying, I want you young people to make a mess of the church. This is the only way. Thank you, Stevie. This is the only way that we can move forward.
Who am I to judge?
Oh, let's do that.
If a person is gay and accepts the Lord and has goodwill, who am I to judge them?
Yeah. So he says all these things, but then he says, don't let Homo sapiens into the seminary. There's too much protrogine. Well, I agree with that, but it's just using language as a weapon, the way that the Marxists taught. The Peronists do it, I think, more craftily than the Marxists. They use doublespeak really, really, really surgically. It's just say both things and then proceed to do one thing. Now, if you don't believe that, then listen to what he said just last week about deaconesses. In a CBS interview, he was asked, are you going to have ordained deacons, I mean sacramental deacons for women? Are you going to open up this office? And he said, no, full stop. Then he said, unless what you mean by ordained deacons is just deaconesses, who we've always had and weren't ordained. They're women. Women do women things, but we've always had that. And basically, yes, we are working towards that. A non-ordained female deacon. Well, if we've always had it, then you wouldn't need to be moving toward it. And both of his lieutenants in charge of the October Synod this year have committed to this. This is what we're doing. We're doing non-sacramental women deacons, deaconesses. So I'm not sure why I'm pretty confident why the Peronism worked with regard to Frocigine. And that got all the young people who don't like, globo homo. That got them excited because he used this F word. I get that, right? That's clever. That's clever Peronism. What I don't get is why more folks, particularly with me sounding the alarm before the 23 Synod, saying this is exactly what he's going to do. He's going to say no ordained female deacons, but we have a new in-between class of female deacons that are non-ordained, but they're going to do everything ergonomically that pertains to ordained deacons. They're going to do all that same stuff. They just won't be ordained. He just won't challenge the dogmatic sacramentality of all male deacons. But they're going to do everything that the male deacons do, and they're going to confuse everyone, and probably later, some later point in the church, his partisans may try to move it forward. But the big step is he is going to do deaconesses, and they're going to do everything deacons do. I told you that on September 30th and October 2nd of last year in 2 consecutive shows. So, there, in that instance, the Peronism was top bread layer was him saying at the October Synod, and everyone saying at the October Synod that was there, we are going to do, they were insinuating things about deaconess that they were very attracted to. He's saying, look, women need to be involved in new ways. Cardinals Gresh and Hollerish, the two lieutenants, you guys are free and clear to go out there. I won't correct you. Go out there and say, we're doing deaconesses. They might, those are the two liberals, radicals. They might or might not be exactly ordained. Francis is like, I think, okaying them behind the scenes to go do that stuff. That's the top layer of the sandwich. And then you have him saying no to the CBS reporter. There will not be female deacons. And then the bottom layer of bread came 5 seconds later when he said, unless what you meant is what we've always had. And what we've always had was like deacon helper ladies. And yeah, so that's probably coming. That's probably coming. What are you looking at there? That's interesting. So there you have it. Peronism by Francis with regard to deaconesses. And you're going to see, you're sort of taking my prediction on its face until they make the deaconesses happen. But the model for this, and I've told you several times, was set by the twin family synods, 2014 and 2015. How many times do I have to say it? In 2014, they said, we are going to give communion to the divorced and civilly remarried. Then 3 months before the second synod in October 2015 came out in July, Francis sent the main advocate of communion for divorced and remarried, Cardinal Walter Casper, onto right-wing EWTN Raymond Arroyo's show and says, look, I'm out. He used to favor me, but he doesn't anymore. It's a bummer. He had him say that. That's what he said. I've done shows where I played that whole interview. He's like, it's probably not going to happen now. I think I'm out. It was really, really, he was really favoring it in 2014, but no. And then so that's the middle piece of the sandwich, the meat, where everyone goes, oh, why would they say this if it weren't true? He's admitting that in 2014, the Pope favored this, and now he doesn't, and he's saying it probably won't be. But then in 2015, they finish up the synod completely secretly, and the bottom part of the bread is in 2016, April, Amoris Laetitia comes out. It sounds damn like it's giving communion to the divorced and civilly remarried in chapter 8 of Amoris Laetitia. And then they wait 5.5 months for the Buenos Aires bishops from Francis's home diocese to write a dubia. Is this what you meant? Communion for the divorced and civilly remarried? And in late September, Francis answers, yes, you have the only correct interpretation. So that's the bottom layer of the bread. This phenomenon of doublespeak, top layer of bread, bottom layer of bread with a contradiction in between, allows him in the social media age, especially, to proceed to do whatever radical anti-dogmatic things he wants to do, no matter how anti-dogmatic they are. You couldn't use any other approach in the social media age. It's the only one that would work. It's literally the only one that would work. You have to mollify, pacify, handle, quell your detractors out there. People that are like, okay, you can't say, who am I to judge, Francis? You can't circulate Fiducia supplicans. So then he's like, no, I'll say something over the top right wing, like Frocagine, too much Frocagine. I'll talk like Tim Gordon does in his house, pretty much 24/7 when he's not on the air. And when he's on the air sometimes. Talking about it, right? I talk about this stuff all day long. Using these terms you're not supposed to use. I mean, do you really think I don't? You know I do. And so does the Pope. But he's doing it as a surgical tool, as an instrument of surgery. And he does it well. And people fall for it every time. I mean, smart people. Most people, even trads. I'm not saying all trads are smart. I'm saying even the most suspicious people. The suspicious people, the smart people, the people on the right in the church, the people that are not prone to Pope-splaining, even all fell for this one, this most recent Frocagine one. All I did was a tweet that's like, hey, I'm on board with this. Let's talk this way all the time. And then everyone got, all the normies and the people that I think fell for it got disappointed when he released the statement the next day, apologizing. Holy See Press Office, May 28th, 2024. Hey, he hopes he didn't offend any of you guys. He loves you. He loves you guys. They were all like, oh, it's more cowardice from the right. I'm like, this is not cowardice from the right. Francis is not from the right. And this is, in this instance, not cowardice. It was part of the plan. He didn't even apologize that hard. If this were a right-winger that really said Frocigine and got caught, I mean, see, check me. Check me if anytime in the next few years I get caught saying in English, Frocigine, all these Frocigines. I'm not going to apologize. I'll give a no apology. Francis gave something closer to that. That was an unapology. It was just enough so that his leftist buddies could cover for him, but they obviously were throwing softballs at him because it's part of the plan. It's part of the plan. This is how peronism works. Another element to the divorced and civilly remarried sandwich that complicates it, that makes it even more absurd, is before the 2014 synod in October, by the way, he fundamentally changed the norms on receiving annulments, making them 1,000 times easier to get. In other words, you only have to do all that stuff that he did at the 2014-2015 synods, Amoris Laetitia and the Amoris Laetitia Dubia, between October 2014 and September 2016. You only have to do all that stuff for people, divorcees who are Catholic, who get a divorce but were denied an annulment. Well, guess what he did quietly in early 2014? First thing he did in his pontificate, he adopted the 1971 USCCB norms for annulment that made them virtually impossible to deny to anyone. Benedict and John Paul II had talked about, look, this is just Catholic divorce. What the USCCB did, they changed their norms. Neither Benedict nor JP2, they're basically both impotent. Neither of them ever did anything restricting the new 1971 USCCB annulment norms, but they always complained about them. We're never going to be like the American norms. And under Benedict, it became well known that 90 to 95% of annulments in America granted after 1971 were invalid annulments. And the Roman Rota would undo 95% of those post-1971 American annulments because they made it where it's a rubber stamp. You could be a Catholic man. I mean, any of you out there who are in the audience know. If you're divorced, if I have any divorcees in my audience, and you tried to get an annulment after 1971, 99% of you are like, yeah, I just got it. It's rubber stamped. I had 10 kids with my wife. I was married for 30 years. Got an annulment. So what I'm saying is Francis took those 1971 norms that his two predecessors, JP2 and B16, had always complained about. And first thing he did in his pontificate, or one of the very first things, in early 2014, he said, I'm applying this to the whole church. These absurd rubber stamp ordinations, which basically make it impossible for any tribunal around the world, marital tribunal, to deny any divorcee his annulment status. They've been doing it in America since 1971. That's why, like, everyone out there is like, well, I'm divorced, but I'm annulled. If it happened after 1971, you're divorced. And the American church just smiled on it. Well, Francis, no one talks about this. No one knows this. Quietly applied those to the whole church in 2014, which proves that all of his next laborings in late 2014, all of 2015, early 2016, toward Amoris Laetitia didn't really help anyone. So why was he doing it? Well, because he's trying to undo all the regulations on all of the pelvic issues altogether. But literally, if you put that unknown fact into the mix, then you're like, wow, he is a master of deception. There's no one out there that's even still being denied annulment status outside of America. No one in America has been denied annulment status since like 1970 or earlier. Only the most obvious exceptions. Most dioceses have a 0%. We have denied 0 applications for annulment since 1971. Some of them are like 95%, but most of them are 100% grant. That shows he's a Peronist. So why did he do all the communion for the civilly divorced and remarried stuff, which occupied the mantle, the sole content of 2 synods, his first 2 synods, October 2014 Extraordinary Family Synod, Unfamily Synod, and October 2015 Ordinary Family Synod? Why would he do that? Because he's a Peronist. He's just trying to open up all the sex avenues, allow all kinds of sexual illicity in the Catholic Church. He is the Peronist Pope. You've heard people say it, but they can't substantiate it as well as we do here on Rules for Retrogrades. So stay tuned. We are kind of waiting. I anticipate strongly that this shoe will drop sometime this summer. Sometime this summer for the other, the new ruling from the CDF on women deaconesses. Do we have a cue?
Yeah, there's a super chat. It's a little off topic, but I don't know if you can read it.
I'm looking to write an article on this. What best works you suggest for Catholic just war theory? This is a good question. So you start with Aquinas, and Eleanor Stump has some good stuff on just war theory. Eleanor Stump. And there's, Phaser has some great, Ed Phaser has some great resources on just war theory. Also, the new natural law people push back against just war theory. You should read them. That would be Finis, Grisey, Boyle, John Finis, Germain Grisey, Boyle. They're hard on just war theory, but you need to read them if you want to be really thorough. Read Stump, read Phaser, read Russell Hittinger has some good stuff on just war theory. Yeah, I mean, it's mainly just sort of the scholars. I don't know about. You're just debating from within the bounds of Thomism, where Thomas lines it out really, really clearly, and Thomists sort of have it out. New natural law people, I throw in Robbie George with the new natural law. Robbie George, John Finis, Germain Grisey, I think it's Joseph Boyle. They all reject it. And they're not really Thomists, but they're always trying to go to Thomistic conferences, the new natural law. So let's start there. Start with those guys. It's good stuff. My friend Michael Robillard, co-author on Don't Go to College, is also a scholar of just war theory. He has some good articles out there on just war theory. God bless you all. Wait and see what this Peronist Pope does in summer of 2024. I expect a lot to happen in the deaconess category. God bless you all.